Well, welcome back, everybody. Episode number 36 here at Placed in Shelter with your host, Ryan Catarozoli. And today we're going to start out with a quarantine update, as usual. But here in Wisconsin, the weather's a little crazy. Like you've seen from some previous episodes, it's not unnormal or unnatural for us to have some snow flurries in the air in May. And we complain that it's too cold and we never get any warm weather. And then Wisconsin pulls one of these, hold my beer, and all of a sudden overnight it's 86 degrees with 80+% humidity, and it's summer overnight. So we've hit here, it is hot. We had some people over. Tenley turned 3 on the 25th, so her birthday was actually yesterday. We celebrated on Sunday, just a small little get together with family, but it was hot outside. So we're very thankful that mom and dad have opened up their pool, which is where we're gonna spend pretty much every weekend from here until Labor Day when they close it up. So, and today's episode is going to be called More Heating of the Water. So yes, obviously we went over some booster heaters in the past, and we talked about kind of the foundations of Hatco and where we got our start with water heating. But today I want to talk about something a little bit different, still within the same confines of water heating, but at the same time slightly different than a booster heater. We have two different ones, and a lot of people enjoy the episode, What's the Difference? So we're going to get into what's the difference here again, with two different models, and actually within the models, there's two different products for each. And we'll kind of explain what the differences are between the two of them. And the first one that we're gonna start out with is what we're calling our 3CS. And the name is pretty simple, 3-compartment sink heater. So with the 3CS, what's actually happening here is when we have to have 180-degree rinse water, but you don't have it coming out of a dish machine, it's not running during the rinse cycle. If you're manually washing dishes, that third compartment is usually set up for rinsing. And in order to meet NSF standards, you need to have that water at 180 degrees, the same that you would have in a dish machine. So most standard water heaters aren't going to provide that much temperature for you for that third compartment. So we've introduced a piece of equipment like this. Been around for a long time. These are specified all the time by consultants. But the reason I want to talk about these today is because they're not often talked about in general market. In fact, some of you on today's show will go, oh yeah, Ryan, I totally understand the difference. But there's some of you that'll go, I have no idea what the difference are. They look exactly the same. So what we're doing is we're putting two holes, but essentially what's happening is you have two holes cut in the bottom of that third compartment, and that way the water can come into the unit and then it can go out of the unit. And you're just simply kind of creating its own current. Hot water's rising, cold water's falling. So it kind of creates a natural current inside here. And in fact, when one of these is running, somebody may even confuse it with like a power soak because it really starts churning the water. But the main 3CS that you see, which is in this previous picture, you can just see here this is an on and off switch. This is preset from the factory. There's no adjustment here. The valve on the side is just for draining, so you can drain that third compartment at the end, so you can have that run into a drain. But you can see here where it has the temperature, and it doesn't actually allow you to change anything, so that we make sure that that water is above 180 degrees for the rinse. Now, there's another product, which is called our FR, which is a food rethermalizer. Well, here it is. You may have thought I went back a picture, but this is a totally different piece of equipment. This is our food rethermalizer, or the FR series. Now, big difference that you're going to notice right down here on the right, this is going to give us the ability to change the temperature of this between 140 degrees and 190 degrees. Now, this can be used as a Bain-Marie, so that if you want to put a steam table over the top of it, or if you want to use it as a food rethermalizer for reconstituting or bringing back to temperature food, you can do that. Now, some people will say, well, what about on the inside? Is there any differences? And there's not. You're still having a basin on the inside. The water still flows the same way as this picture does. Your elements are still exposed down here. The major difference is if you have just a third compartment sink that you're using for rinsing dishes, the 3CS is the way to go. The health department looks at it. It's called a sink heater. There's no ability to change the temperature. It's always going to be, as long as it's working properly, at the right temperature. Now, technically, an FR, when sized properly, can give you the temperature that you need for a sink heater, but it has the adjustability. So the health department might look at it and say, that can go down to 140. I don't want that on the sink because there's a chance that it may not be at the right temperature. So those are the major differences between the 3CS and the FR. Now, there's two different sizing rules. You just heard me mention that as long as it's sized properly. When sizing a 3CS or a sink heater, you always want 2,000 watts per square foot of the top vessel that it's going to be heating the water in. So that way you make sure you have enough power to heat the amount of water that's in there. On the FR, it's slightly different. If you're going to be using it as a Bain-Marie, it's 750 watts per square foot. If you need it to be a food rethermalizer, it's again 2,000 watts per square foot. So if you remember those two rules, those two guidelines, you'll always size them properly. Now that we have it set up perfectly, I offer you another product, and that would be what we call our 3CS2 or our FR2. Now, if you remember from previous episodes, anytime we throw a number 2 somewhere in the model number, it typically means it's the second generation. And in this case, it is the second generation. What is different? One of the major problems that we were seeing with the original design is that if you were not filtering your water properly, and it was very, very hard, because those elements were exposed, they could have failure. And what I mean by failure is you could have a large amount of sediment build up on those heating elements. And when you have too much sediment on there, they actually act as an insulator. And regardless of what that thermostat says, those heating elements will never be able to heat the water to the proper temperature. So for the second generation, we wanted to eliminate that. Now, if you have the filtered water, if you're changing your filter properly, the original models work great. But on the second generation, instead of having it go into a basin, what's happening is there is a tube and the water never comes in contact with the heating element. The water goes through the tube and the heating elements are wrapped around the tube. So that way it's heating the tube and then the water in turn is getting heated by going through the tube. So therefore your water is never touching the actual heating elements and giving you some more longevity. Now, the next question is going to be, well, take a look at these two pictures. What's the difference? The 3CS and the FR2, once you move into the second generation, the inside remains the same, the guts are the same, but you'll notice on the 3CS2, which is the sink heater, you will have a set temperature from the factory. You will have to go through some hoops to try to change that. Whereas with the FR2, which is your food rethermalizer or Bain-Marie, you can easily change your set point with a digital display of what temperature is coming out of that unit. That's your major difference. Once again, the FR2 could easily act as a 3CS2. However, again, the health department may not look at that kindly because it doesn't have the name sink heater in the model number. And the sink heater as well has a mil spec if you're ever looking at putting it into a military institution. So with that, that's going to wrap up today's talk. Hopefully we learned something today. Now, as usual, if we go ahead and open up the chat window, you can take a look and see, ask any questions that you have about our 3CS or sink heater versus the food rethermalizer. And I'll give you a few seconds here. And yes, thank you. Happy birthday to Tenley. I'm officially the father of a 3-year-old. It doesn't look like we have any questions, so let's go ahead and open up. Yes, Brent, you're right. My wife gets all the credit, 100%. And then we're going to get to everybody's favorite part of the show, which is our memes for today. And once again, Charlene Brent is coming through. She is the meme queen. She has the best, the most appropriate, and funny. So here we go. 3 more from her. You're not wearing a polka dot face mask with a plaid shirt. See, my wife wouldn't be so nice. She'd just look at me and go, that's what you're wearing, and imply that I was supposed to know that I can't mix and match polka dots and plaids. So here's a really good one. How about the sheepdog here? This is Toby. He's now working from home, and clearly all the sheep are listening. And last but not least, my towel when the beach reopens. That's a heck of a towel. I don't know how you'd roll it up and if it would even fit in the back of your car. You might have to have a pickup truck for that. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. If you are catching it on YouTube and want to be a part of the conversation, as always, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Central Time. And if you want to join us, go ahead and use the link in the description below. It'll take you right into the Zoom cast. If you are subscribed to Hatco, you can use the bell notification to let you know every time we post new videos, and show us you're enjoying the content by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.